I don't need to tell you that the charges brought up against our one and only are garbage. These snobs want to get rid of him since he's a thorn at their side and has power to back it up. However, there's this big question I have. Is Gojo at fault for what happened in Japan? Hello comrade, my name is Mahis. Come, get yourself a beverage and sit down with me. We got some scolding to do. The short answer to that question is yes, to a degree. And there are two sides to it, one philosophical, one practical. Starting with a more vague criteria, there is a slightly rephrased question. Are you to blame for someone's death if you could have prevented it? Legally speaking, not as long as you were obligated to do so. But morally speaking, if a doctor willingly ignored a random person who just had a heart attack which resulted in their life subscription ending due to lack of CPR, I'd say that the doctor is partially responsible because they had knowledge and ability to help but decided not to. Okay, this is a very nuanced situation, so let's kick it up a notch as Superman on his way to the next town Wendy's sees a plane going down with a bunch of people on board. He certainly didn't cause the crash, nor the malfunction that led to it, yet if he really wants that Frosty and passes dudes in mortal danger, can we blame him for letting those people die? I say yeah, he made a decision not to save these guys. It's not like it happened on the other side of the planet where he didn't know, didn't see, couldn't reach. The events transpired right in front of him and it was morally incorrect not to interfere given Superman's abilities. So, how does this apply to Gojo? Not sure if he can take on comic Superman, and don't really need to, because for the purpose of our discussion, he's established as a dominant force in the show, so much so that each side plans whatever they're doing around him specifically. As a result, I'm led to believe that Mr. Shades is able to clap everyone's cheeks if he so desired, and it's further proven by him saying that he would win against Prime Sukuna. Yeah, the guy who did all this while being far from his best. We'll come back to this later. For now, Satoru is supposed to be the strongest Jujutsu sorcerer whose job is to kill curses and curse users, which means that he has both a legal obligation to deal with the villains in Shibuya and a moral obligation to save as many people as possible. How do you achieve that? By dispatching the enemies as fast as possible in order to prevent them from wreaking more havoc. He did neither. Several thousand people are dead already and many more will follow. Can we blame Gojo for that? He didn't know about Kenny's plan, but all he needed to do is his job not to play into it, and that's where we get into a more quantifiable stage of this argument. What he could have done differently. A quick side note, we aren't going back to the good old ghetto days because it's unreasonable and unnecessary. This situation does have some ties to the past, since the only reason Stitches here got to him is his friend's transmog. But going so far back saying he should have done this or that is a bit disingenuous, hence why we won't do it. What we will is analyze this encounter. Satoru versus Choso, Jogo, Hanami, and later Mahito. Why them and not the big bad himself? Because his plans would have gone out the window without these guys. First and foremost, he needed Patchface to not only stay alive, but to digivolve into his final form and be on the brink of death so that he can be forcefully acquired. Second, Volcano Dude had all the fingers on him, which he would have fed to Sukuna if something went wrong. Remember their conversation in the hot spring. He said that he doesn't mind dying if it means Curse Daddy's resurrection, so as a last-ditch effort, he would be able to at least partially awaken Sukuna. Thirdly, these guys are here for moral support basically. There is no crucial task they need to fulfill and they serve only to occupy Gojo while the prison realm does its thing. Having said that, if all four of them were to die right here and now, it's practically GG and Ken-chan would have had to go back to the drawing board because sealing this handsome lad won't help him to release his stash of curses in the way he wanted. But we don't know that. Our intel consists of these guys are pretty bad, they know how to plan as well as execute, and that they're after Sukuna's fingers for whatever reason. That's not a lot of information considering we have to act now. And if we go into Strategy 101, the best course of action when suddenly going up against an opponent whose plans you don't know is to strike hard and fast enough not to allow them to do anything because you have no idea what that anything is. Gojo should have killed them on the spot without all this extracurricular crap. Granted, villains made it very difficult by employing every mental manipulation and creating every obstacle they could, so he was definitely at a disadvantage. However, this is where power levels stop making sense to me. Jogo lost to Gojo with no contest whatsoever, and he lost to Sukuna with no contest too when he wasn't at his full strength. How in the world would he pose a struggle, let alone challenge for Satoru when the latter is supposed to be stronger than this over here? Also, Hanami and Choso are both weaker than this barbecue lover and shouldn't be able to hold a candle to our dude just as we've seen in the show. Then there is the matter of speed. I feel like we're getting conflicting information, since 1,000 enemies in 5 minutes is only 3-ish a second, which is pretty meh considering a trained human with a gun can do that on a smaller scale. I know there is travel time and precise attacks, but if the show tried to make it a flex, why can't he catch up with Jogo, who was toyed with by Sukuna? He seems to be on a whole other planet considering he had time to fuck with sorcerers while dodging a supreme art, which further implies that Satoru has to be even faster to be able to land a fatal blow. Oh, there are people. Gojo doesn't want to kill him. Bullshit. Reason number 1, Sho has demonstrated his maneuverability on several occasions. He was able to dodge some of Toji's attacks, he can teleport without even Jogo noticing, and he can convincingly cosplay Flash. Number 2, we just established by putting some pieces together that he is significantly faster. Not 10, 20, 30%, we're talking several times potentially, because again, even incomplete Sukuna was untouchable for this disaster. Alright, let's say my interpretation of his capabilities is incorrect and the gap between him and Jogo is not that big. Fuck, I almost choked while reading this because I remembered Gojo straight up leaving to grab Yuji to show him what a special great curse can do, which forces him to use his domain expansion for 0.2 seconds to disable everyone around him. Quick Mahi's explanation about this. This disable effect doesn't stun high-end curses for a certain duration, it's more of a sleep debuff that breaks on contact, which apparently justifies him going after transfigured humans first to minimize casualties. That's a lot of baloney, and plain double-digit IQ move if you think about it for longer than 2 seconds. You know that these poor souls are second grade at best and won't wake up anytime soon. Sure, it's gonna be faster than 2 months, maybe an hour or something, but why would you spend your effort killing something that's of no consequence right now? For someone who was RP walking just a minute ago, you're acting way too rash. You just bought yourself God knows how much time. Use those very good eyes of yours and look at what you're dealing with. There are 2 pure curses and 1 half curse, who was keeping his distance and barely doing anything. Go rip his head off. Who cares if he wakes up, he won't be alive. Then focus on Jogo, float over him and cast your damn holo if you're afraid of people getting hit by it. Hell, do it to Mahito, I doubt he can fix himself if there is nothing to fix or fixed with. Okay, maybe they will wake up if you use so much energy near them, which is unlikely given that even this menace to society wasn't able to dodge it. Again, rip his damn head off, it was so effortless last time. Whatever you do to Jogo right now, it will land because he needs to be touched to wake up. And the last time I checked, if this kilo on roids gets a hold of you, you can't escape without losing whatever he grabbed. Next, we have to talk about the whole saving people thing, since it's the reason Gojo was holding back in the first place. I am a bit torn here, but once you think about it, it doesn't make any sense in this context. Yes, there is a thing I call Hero's Dilemma, which boils down to saving some people now to risk more people later. We see it occasionally, and 2 prime examples are from My Hero Aka with Deku, Shigi in the mall, and All Might, Quirk Daddy and Kamino. In Midoriya's case, losing even 100 civilians while subjugating Tomura is an insurmountably good deal if it prevents entire cities being razed. And in All For One's case, he should have been executed on the spot not only for the crimes he already committed, but to eliminate even the slightest chance of him getting out. However, nobody could have predicted facepalm leveling up to this extent, and in general, it's not how the heroes do, which is precisely what's going on in JJK. Gojo knows way better than most what's the consequence of not taking action or being too confident. Take Megumi's dad and the Star Plasma vessel. He thought everything was under control and look how it turned out. Then it was Geto whose despair he failed to see/address with the subsequent Third Hokage moment, resulting in a bunch of his peers and civilians dying over the following years. And finally, the attack on the school itself, which cost several lives again, as well as many cursed objects they were guarding. Moreover, this allegedly OP man let 2 special great curses escape from right underneath his nose. If I was him, I'd be re-evaluating my methods because this makes me look like a total schmuck. Say what you want about our dude, but the facts are, curses staged an attack on your headquarters while a good chunk of important sorcerers were present, and they fucking succeeded. If this is not an indication that you're dealing with someone very dangerous, I don't know what is. And now we have the situation in Shibuya. This time around, there are regular people involved, they are already dying, and we have more barriers up than the last time. The situation is arguably worse and calls for immediate decisive actions. What does Satoru do? Fuck around as usual and pretend to keep high moral ground. People killed by Gojo versus people killed by cursed spirits. Let me rephrase that. It's people killed by Gojo's actions versus people killed by Gojo's lack of actions. In both cases, there will be casualties, and the only way to stop it is to stop the damn curses. I understand that he might have went in expecting to save most of them, but when you see hundreds of people falling to their death and more getting killed around you, it's time to say fuck it and go full-on domain expansion. Because whether you save the remaining ones or not, you let so many die already that it doesn't really matter. They're all gone because you were holding back and not taking decisive actions, just like that time with Geto. Speaking of which, no discussion can be called fair without some counter-arguments, which, in this case, if I kill people to achieve my goals, even if it is to deal with strong curses, I'll be no different from Geto. This is about the only thought I can come up with that will justify Satoru's careful approach, because I don't think our everyday morals of don't kill apply here. He is not in a position where he's allowed to be concerned with his own humanity since he has such a great impact on Jujutsu world. Take Oppenheimer for example. You have to finish the bomb before the Nazis with all the subsequent implications, otherwise they win and the whole world is fucked. There is no good answer here, only bad, worse or terrible. You sacrifice some people now so that many can live later. It's a polar opposite from what Geto went for. Kill off most so that the remaining become sorcerers and live happily ever after. Even if it is the best case scenario and we only lose half the population, that's still 4 billion people, not accounting for all the destruction. The society will collapse, which is not the case in Gojo's situation, where he has to sacrifice people in the subway who are already dead, dying or wish they were, in order to save the rest of the city. I understand that there's no way he knew what curses have in store for Japan, but again, they were bold enough to attack the Jujutsu HQ directly and win, so you have to go balls blazing as you don't know what they might be cooking this time, in addition to seeing all the carnage they've already caused. With great power comes great responsibility, and this expression can't be more true in Gojo's situation, who lives during times of unprecedented curse activity by modern standards, where Jogo alone can wipe the floor with all but a few sorcerers. He simply can't afford to slip up or be concerned with saving a small group of people, because if he goes down, the entire world is in danger. And in case he hasn't figured it out himself after Doji, Geto and this year's events, I'd personally tell him, you got so used to being the best that you got delusional, thinking you can save everyone at any time. This statement over here is exactly why I think the aftermath of the Shibuya incident is mostly Gojo's fault. It was I, Mahis, pretending to be principal into the microphone. Have a great whatever time of the day you have. Until next time, cheers.